Welcome to the Crazy Dre Podcast Show, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. This is Main Man, aka Crazy Crockett, aka Andre's podcast. Folks, this might be a short one. I'm going to just talk about this young man, Shedeur Sanders. But obviously, you see a picture of his father, Deion Sanders. And I just wanted to, I guess everyone's making a big deal out of this, that Shedeur Sanders isn't drafted yet. And there's a lot of things going on. It's going to be in the fourth round on Saturday. He didn't go first, second, third. They thought that he was going to go first, and they thought that he was going to go second. And then Mel Chipper Jr. and Fields Yates of ESPN, both are just so surprised. And I don't think they should be surprised because they do this a full-time job. They work on stories. They work at rumors. They look at everything that you can possibly think of, and they do their research. They have connections to teams and owners and GMs of any team that they talk about the NFL, and I think it's an obvious reason for Shedeur Sanders not being drafted yet. Basically, you could easily just say it's the elephant in the room. And the elephant in the room is his dad. Now, everyone that grew up in the 90s know Deion Sanders from Atlanta Falcons to Dallas Cowboys and his obnoxious playboy lifestyle persona. And even off the field and on the field, it was just about Deion Sanders. And there's stories of him with parties at Dallas and what's going to happen is that when you draft his son, you're going to get a lot of that garbage. Maybe not from Shedeur Sanders himself, but his dad. His dad would be in the ownership space, the GM space, the head coaching space. All the other players on the other team that his son is going to get drafted from, if he gets drafted. Now, if he doesn't get drafted, I would be very surprised. But who else does this remind you of? It reminds me of Lavar Ball. He's got 3 sons in the NBA: Lonzo Ball, Leandro Ball, and LaMelo. And his dad, Lavar Ball, was also the most obnoxious man on the face of this planet, all because he wanted his kids to be recognized and to be in the NBA. And Sanders is the most obnoxious man in the world, Deion Sanders, and you should really feel bad for Shedeur Sanders, his son. You know, you just can't live up to what your dad did, or what your dad wants you to do, or what your dad wants you to be. You just can't. And obviously, Lavar Ball is a different story because Lavar Ball never made it to the NBA, whereas Deion Sanders did make it to the NFL. But it's a whole different perspective, whole different era. Players getting paid way too much money just to play college football. Players being transfer pool everywhere because they're not happy of their situation with the team and the coach that they transfer from. When they don't get their way, they have what my grandma used to say, have a hissy fit. And they would pout and complain, and their parents would get involved. And it doesn't really matter if it's a white or black parents. If they're obnoxious about their kids playing sports, and they put them in travel league and all this other stuff, and they think their son or their daughter is supposed to be the greatest athlete in the world, and they're not, that can bring a lot of coaches, a lot of that young person's friends to hate that guy and just hate him. I mean, I just can't explain this this spoil brat thing that we have. And for Kipper and Yates to pretend that this is not an issue, this is going to be an issue for the rest of Shedeur Sanders' career. And unfortunately, if Shedeur Sanders' father, Deion Sanders, reminds me of Tom Parker. Tom Parker was an Elvis Presley manager from the 50s until Elvis died. Okay. He he did everything for Elvis. He marketed everything. He did everything to make Elvis relevant, even when Elvis was in the army. And you know what happened to Elvis? He hated Tom Parker. Elvis never had space, time for himself. This might happen to Shedeur Sanders, where if his dad is always in his space and he does not allow him to have his own time and his own freedom and not just talk to the owners and talk to the GM and talk to the coaching staff and be able to like mature at his age rate. What I mean by that is that when you're just coming out of college and you're becoming a professional athlete, you want your parents to be there. You want your parents to have agents and lawyers and all that. But there's a relevance of having that young person who's becoming that NFL or the NBA or the WNBA athlete or the MLB athlete understand between the lines and everything else with it. But it's at his rate. So, and within the first year of this contract, that's why there's a rookie contract. This is why the MLB have it. That's why the NHL has it. That's why the NFL has it. Because there's a cap for all these first round draft picks and all these guys going to the NFL. That way, they can educate themselves by financial advisors of the team that comes in and explains to them this is how much you're going to get paid, this is how much you're not going to get paid, this is the house that you will not buy, this is the house that you can buy. And it just comes in steps. Deion Sanders is a different story. He's already accomplished all this stuff. He's a Super Bowl champion. He's an analyst for the NFL Network. At one time, I think he was with ESPN. So Shedeur Sanders has that advantage, but in reality, he's not his dad, and he doesn't have that mindset. He's just a young person who's trying to make himself and his dad happy. Okay. At this point, it's really not about Shedeur Sanders. It's really about Deion Sanders. Now, Shedeur Sanders could tell you he could tell you his best friends and his friends, like, I really love football, but I can't stand my father being around me and talking to these agents and talking to the GMs. I wish I could just do this on my own with my agent, not my dad's agent, but with my agent. And we can go in there and communicate and organize a plan for him to be a starter in 2 years or at least this coming year in the NFL. Do I think that this kid is good? I've seen him play. I think he's got good instincts on the field. I think he holds the ball a little bit too long. His offensive line was kind of shaky. But I think it made it worse because his dad was a head coach. And what happens when your dad's the head coach and he's prime time, teams will play your son harder or more than the other kids, the other players. But Shedeur Sanders, I think the best thing that he could do for himself is simply just say, "Hey, Dad, um, I really love you. I appreciate what you're doing for me, but I really need this to be my gig, not your gig. And if that means that if I get drafted to the Panthers or to New Orleans, like he was supposed to get drafted to New Orleans, supposedly. Now I'm not going. I don't have enough time to look every report on this kid, or even with Detroit Lions. As you see, I have a Lions hat on because I have a full time job. Okay, so I really think that if he gets drafted, he should just like run with the flow and be the backup quarterback and basically he knows he's going to start somewhere. So he's not going to go to Denver. He's not going to go to Detroit, which I wouldn't mind if we kind of looked at him because Jared Goff is, questionable about finishing plays. And this way, Detroit has a foot in if they do have this kid on the bench, because this would be Goff's uh, second year of the 4-year contract. But if Shedeur Sanders does get drafted, he'll get drafted to a team that's maybe coming up, maybe somewhere in um, Miami. I mean, you got that quarterback Tia, who's got brain injuries and a lot of fogginess of those concussions. That'd be a great place for him to go to Miami. Miami should really pick this kid up and say, "Hey, pops, you can't be on the practice field. You cannot be in a facility. You cannot be even at the games." I would just make it straight. I would just keep it real. Deion Sanders, you can watch the game at home and you can watch the game in your airplane and your yachts and whatever you want to watch the game. But you're not watching the game in Miami. I'm just using Miami as an example. But like you can't come to the game. You cannot be in practice. You can't be at the post game or pre-game. You just can't do that. And that's what Shedeur Sanders should do. Shedeur Sanders should put his foot down, and no one's really talking about him. Everyone's talking about the idea that he's not being drafted. No one's giving him actually good advice. But Shedeur Sanders should really get himself a really good agent and say, hey, how do I play out the level field? How do I get a team to talk to me? And what do I need to do with someone like my father, who's very vocal and very alpha personality? There needs someone to talk to him and say, hey, you got to set it down a little bit. You have to set it back. You have to take the back seat. You've got your son to that point of the NFL, and we congratulate you, and you did a fantastic job. But this is not the Deion Sanders primetime show. This is your son's show. And it's not even a show, it's just your son. Your son is just another athlete that may or may not make it in the NFL. But if you put so much pressure on this kid because of you, because of you, Deion Sanders, your son might backfire from this and become a failure in his professional career. And that's simply the best way I could put it. I'm not trying to tell you like you're not a good father. I'm not trying to tell you that you're 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 doing too much. I don't know if you're doing too much, but every owner in the NFL, every GM, every head coach, everybody, that's the one thing that they're afraid of. Afraid of you trying to run the team because your son's not playing by week 4 in 2025-26 season. Maybe he's not ready. Maybe the team's just not in that perspective way of thinking. But if he goes to Miami, a place where they have enough talent, Tia gets hurt again, he could really be a beneficial player there. I don't know Miami's backup quarterback, but I think Miami would be a good spot for him. He's got a good running backs. I think, and then Tyreek Hill is a great wide receiver. Their coach seems to be very. There's been speculations of the coach not getting along with a lot of the players, and I think a lot of it has to do with the coach might not be as really great with disciplinary actions, or he's overreacting to certain stuff. I don't know what I just said. I just stuttered. So excuse that part. But yes, I think Shedeur Sanders, I think that you should be drafted. I think that you're very young. You got a really loving family, I'm sure. I'm sure you got a very nice mom and uncles and aunts, and you got a dad that's prime time, and it's got to be tough. And I think the person that should talk to uh to Deion Sanders is might be like Tiger Woods, because Tiger Woods has a son named Charlie. Charlie's an upcoming golfer. He loves his dad. He does everything like his dad. He acts like his dad. He pretends to be his dad. His dad is his hero, everything about him. But you can tell that Tiger Woods, he just seems to understand how to uh, manage his appearance to the tournaments that his son's in, and not be overshadowing his son's uh, 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 tournaments. I think yeah, I think Tiger Woods would be a perfect example, because he had a dad and it was a disciplinary action, military, golf Tiger from the age of 3 years old. And then when his dad died, he messed up a little bit, or messed up a lot, for reasons that you and I and everyone else should kind of be more sensitive to. But Tiger Woods be a good he'd be a good avenue for Deion Sanders to talk to about how to what's the next step for his son, or what's the next step for dad and him, so that he doesn't become overwhelming. And you never know. Maybe Deion Sanders would give good advice to Tiger Woods as Charlie is coming up to maybe amateur golf and pro golf and whatever. Because now his son, Shedeur Sanders, has made it to the pros. Charlie Woods will most likely make it to the pros. So this is a great opportunity for Tiger Woods and Deion Sanders to really just sit down and chill, and maybe that'll be a better way to help Shedeur Sanders in his NFL career. There you go, folks. The Crazy Dre Podcast Show. Thank you very much for listening. Apple Podcasts, Spotify. You can follow me there. You can find me on YouTube. Obviously, Crazy Dre Podcast Show. You can also download it from rss.com. I also have the platform there. But peace, love, and good luck to you, Mr. Shedeur Sanders and Deion. Well, yeah, Shedeur Sanders. Good luck. I hope things work out for you. I think you have a very great opportunity to be a very talented athlete. All right. Peace, love, and I'm out of here.